What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers are going to be without Christian Wood for likely the rest of the season. Depending on where the Lakers go and how far that they advance, we could maybe see Christian Wood take the basketball court again. I wouldn't hold my breath, but would be nice to kind of get him back, his versatility, his ability to play the 4, his ability to play the 5. Also, depending on certain matchups, he could be very valuable, right? If we can get into the playoffs, he could be back for that first round. You know, maybe miss the first game or two and get back for maybe the home games, because Lakers would have basically no home court advantage, or they wouldn't have any home court advantage the entire postseason. So maybe you get Christian Wood back and say we play a team like the Thunder, right? He'd be very valuable in a matchup like that with his size, his length, his ability to stretch the floor, pull out like Chet, or just go head-to-head with Chet. There's a lot of things that Christian Wood would add value to. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, right? But one of the things that a lot of people want to see is the Lakers waive Christian Wood and replace him with another center. Now, look, even if Christian Wood wasn't out and wasn't dealing with injuries, the Lakers could use another physical, big, burly type of center that you can throw at a Jokic or, a Sabonis, or, these bigger type of centers that Anthony Davis has issues with, that Anthony Davis continues to have his struggles with. So a lot of people are like, hey, Christian Wood is probably going to miss the season. He's not going to be any help for us. Let's move Christian Wood, or move on from Christian Wood, and let's bring in some type of center. Couple things you have to think about and make sure that this is something that you'd be okay with if you're one of those people that are in the camp of doing so. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but if the Lakers waive Christian Wood because he has a player option, it would impact the very limited cap space that we have next season. Lakers are already incredibly limited as far as cap space goes. This would make it even worse. And I understand it's only like $2 million or whatever, but you also got to think of the tax and all the things that go into that. So are you willing to sacrifice some potential next season that could be another valuable player to go make a real turnaround and a run next season for this season, which even if you do that, there's no guarantee you even make the playoffs. It's just something to keep in mind. It's just something I want you to think about while you're like, hey, let's get rid of him and sign some type of center or whomever, right? But a couple options that they could have if they were to make that decision. If I'm being honest, I don't think the Lakers will. I think the Lakers will just live with the results this year, are just going to go ride into the postseason and the play-in tournament and just live with the results. But let's say that they did. What centers are available that make sense for the Lakers? First one I want to start with is the least likely, which is Demarcus Cousins. And the reason I say he's the least likely is because he's already retired, and he's kind of talked about it and stressed it. He seems pretty comfortable and content with like, hey, I had my run, I had my time, it's time to move on. Also, what does he look like, right? Is he actively in shape? Is he doing the things necessary for him to immediately jump into being an actual player in the NBA, right? Or has he just been kind of hanging around, eating bonbons all day and, just snacking, and he's just out of shape, and now you need him to ramp up? Something to keep in mind. And something to keep in mind with all the free agent centers. Like, how many of them are actually ready to go right now, knowing that all these teams only have like 13, 14 games left in the season, and they're probably not going to get a job. Now, you would imagine that hopefully they are, but it's just something to keep in mind. But Demarcus Cousins would be a great person for those tougher, more physical matchups, right? Say Sabonis, right? He's a guy that's not going to get bullied. He's not going to get pushed around. He can be physical. He can go in there. Obviously, there's questions, and one of the reasons he doesn't have a job is mental, right? He just kind of gets lost, gets a little too aggressive, a little too over the top, ends up picking up technicals and stuff. We know that that's part of the reason why he can't get a job, because, Bob Myers told him. Demarcus Cousins said in an interview that I was told teams are afraid of what I'm going to do. So, again, likely he's not going to, but I like the idea of Demarcus Cousins. He is probably my favorite if he, assuming, again, this is assuming that he's ready to go. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm in shape. Let's do it. Marcus Cousins would be my favorite choice. Obviously, injury issues are a concern with him, but him basically not playing all year, you got to imagine that he's going to have some, and you're not asking him to come in and play 30 minutes a game. You're just looking for him maybe 50. Any big man that you bring in, you're only looking for them to play 15, maybe 20 minutes tops. So you're not asking them to come in and play this huge role where you're leaning heavily on said player. But Demarcus Cousins, he's only 33, so he's still very young. I mean, he's not young by NBA standards, but he's not 36, 37, 38, like some of the other big men that we'll talk about here shortly that people want. But I like his ability to be a low post threat, his ability to stretch the floor, shoot the three ball. He's a guy that can make plays out of the post even. He's a guy that's very familiar with Jokic as he backed up Jokic. And his last like real productive, like, oh man, he could still be somebody in this league season was with Denver. And it was surprising that Denver didn't keep him. But he's a guy that definitely I would be happy if, like, I wouldn't be mad if the Lakers ended up signing him and bringing him back. But moving on, next up, let's talk about Myers Leonard. So Myers Leonard, he's still 32 years old. He hasn't played in a couple years. He had that little gaming scandal. If you don't know what I'm talking about, basically to summarize, he said a racial slur and basically got blackballed. He apologized and all that stuff. He did get some little minor stints, but he has yet to be back in the league. Sorry, I'm just trying to be careful how I phrase things because YouTube can be pretty stickler about certain things that you say. So, yeah, so he said some stuff that he wasn't supposed to say, which is never good, right? He apologized, he made amends for it, and he thought it was in the past, and then he gets suspended, and then he's out the league. But he's a guy very similar to Demarcus Cousins, right? Younger guy that can be a low post threat that you can dump the ball down to. He has experience. He was on that finals team going up against the Lakers when the Lakers won the championship when he was with Miami. He's a guy that can stretch the floor, knock down the three ball. He is very versatile in the things that he can do out on the basketball court, right? So he's a guy that I would, again, assuming these guys are in shape and ready to go, he's a guy that I think that there is real value in to bringing in, allowing him to be versatile, allowing him to have a potential impact on this Lakers roster in a limited role. As I mentioned, you're only looking for these guys to play 15, 20 minutes tops. You're not asking these guys to do anything crazy, but he's a guy that could slot in, bang with the big boys, bring the big boys out even, spread the floor, especially with the 5-out offense. Problem is Darvin Ham, right? Like, I hate how he utilizes Christian Wood and bringing in somebody like a Demarcus Cousins, like a Myers Leonard. You know that Darvin Ham is probably just going to have him sitting out on the perimeter all game, and that's going to be incredibly frustrating. But he's a guy that I would definitely consider and look at. And then let's talk about the one that everybody wants. Dwight Howard. Now, personally, I wouldn't hate if the Lakers brought in Dwight Howard on a 10-day. I'm not super stoked on Dwight Howard for a couple reasons. One, a lot of people have this perception that Dwight Howard is still the Dwight Howard from 4 years ago. He is 38 years old. Another big thing is, yes, he was brilliant against Jokic, but who's to say that he's going to be that now? He hasn't played in 2 years. He had his struggles. He had, don't get me wrong, if you just, looked up Dwight Howard highlights when he was playing in the Philippines stuff, yeah, you're going to see some monster, 40 and 20 games. But if you look at his actual average, if you actually watched some of the games, if you actually paid attention to what he was doing there, he was not the Dwight Howard that we think or want him to be. Now, how serious was he taking it? That was one of the big problems. That's why he actually ended up leaving, because they didn't want to re-sign him, because they felt Dwight Howard wasn't taking it serious, which is not another good sign for the Lakers to sign him. That's something to keep in mind. But my biggest problem is, again, his age, 38 years old, not playing for 2 years. Guys 25 that take 2 years off struggle when they come back. And you're asking him to go from basically not playing for 2 years to immediately coming back and, oh, now you're going to play 15 to 20 minutes a game in a big role that we really need you in. Again, that's tough to expect from any player, let alone Dwight Howard. Now, he is a veteran. He doesn't have experience, right? He wants to be a Laker. I mean, he's done everything but, like, you know, stand outside of crypto, you know, with a boom box, right? Like, the guy is very adamant about trying to get back to the Lakers. And I've heard some people say, like, oh, well, you know, maybe that's why he can't get a job elsewhere, is because he's so focused on trying to get back to the Lakers. You know, he's at the end of his career. He wants to be somewhere he wants to be. And that could very well be a possibility. But here's the thing. If Dwight Howard really was the guy that... Because teams have worked him out. Teams worked him out as soon as this offseason. Right before he went to the Philippines, he was actively working hard to try to get to an NBA roster. He was taking every tryout that he could possibly get. And everybody watched him and they all went, nah, thanks, right? On top of that, you add in the scandal that's going on with him. However you feel about the situation, not going to get into that, but that's obviously something that could potentially be a distraction and could be something that the Lakers and every team wants to stay away from. But another big thing is because even before the little scandal thing, teams were good on Dwight Howard. The last time the Lakers had Dwight Howard, he is literally fighting with Anthony Davis on the bench. Right? Like, that's another checklist of, like, things to not have him for, right? Does the team even want him back? Does Anthony Davis even want him back? Right? I don't know. The last stint he had did not go very well. He didn't look good out there on the basketball court. He was having trouble in the locker room and on the literally on the bench. There was all kinds. The Lakers basically couldn't get rid of him faster because of the circumstances from that. Again, maybe he's changed. Maybe it's a different thing. It was a rough season period that year. I don't know. Maybe. But my biggest thing that I default to is if he really is the Jokic stopper, not even a stopper, just can slow him down more than average, don't you think some playoff team, a team like the Thunder that are desperate for a big man, do you think a team like the Thunder would say, hey, why don't we bring him in? Because we need somebody that has real size, real strength, real physicality, can play him next to Chet, right? Our one flaw is lack of size down low in the interior. Wouldn't a team like that, or a team like the Clippers or whomever, if any of these playoff teams, even a team in the East, don't you think some team would be like, hey, we may end up playing Denver. Let's bring in Dwight Howard because he's a guy that can slow him down. If any team even had the slightest, do you think that they would add him to the end of the bench just in case they play Denver at any point? I'm pretty sure that they would. And I've heard people, in 2020, because, look, I've talked about this before, just kind of going through all the rebuttals that people try to bring up. People have said, well, in 2020, nobody wanted Dwight Howard. That's why I went to... That's not true. It's not true at all. There was literally, I think there was like 8 teams total that worked him out and were actually actively in conversations. He was supposed to sign with the Sixers. That's why as soon as he left the Lakers, the Sixers brought him in immediately because the Sixers wanted him badly, right? He even said in his press conference that he wanted to make amends with the Lakers, that he had other offers, he had other deals. Some were even for more money, but he wanted to right the ship with the Lakers. He didn't like how it ended, and he wanted to correct it. It's in an interview. He talked about it. There were other teams that were interested in Dwight Howard. Now, were teams just running to the door for Dwight? No. But teams were interested and thought about bringing him in as a guy that could be a valuable piece off the bench. He just wanted to play with LeBron. He wanted to play with the Lakers. He wanted to make amends, and he got to do it. He won a championship. Again, I'm not saying don't. I just want people to, because I just see people have this expectation for Dwight Howard, right? And he's going to come in and is more likely going to be here. And people are going to be like, he's trying. And all the same people that are expecting him to come in and play this big role are all very likely going to be disappointed. In a perfect world, he comes in, right? Bring him, like I said, before I even started this little rant, go get him on a 10-day. Bring him in on a 10-day, see what he looks like. You have nothing to lose. If it doesn't work, you let him go on the 10-day. Bring him in on the 10-day. Best case scenario, he looks like Dwight Howard from 2020. And he's playing both sides of the basketball, and he's bringing energy, and he's bringing aggression, and he's being physical, and he's doing all the things that we want and need him to do. Perfect. Sign him up. I don't even care. Whatever. Keep him for next season. Sign him for a 1+1. He ain't going anywhere, right? Cut Christian Wood, so at least you have him carrying over in the next season. Boom, let's go, right? I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But I just want people to understand the full scope of the situation here. People are just like, get Dwight Howard because of what he did in 2020. Jokic is not the same player he was in 2020. Dwight Howard isn't the same player. Just something to keep in mind. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, I'd love to hear your points. Let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Now subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.